Okay, it is time for the next bit of work on the factory here. So we have our copper, and the next little thing to put in place is to turn all of our stone into concrete. And that's going to require some more refineries. We're using the wet concrete blueprint. The other thing I did was I actually decided to make a drone port that fed its batteries the other direction. So before we get started here, I am going to tack on another drone port. I'm going to move my battery drone port out here. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is use a couple of blueprints that I've used for other things before. And I'm going to separate with this deck border strip. To kind of give a visual set off here. In fact, I think I'm going to rebuild all of my drone ports at this point. So sorry guys, you'll have to go back to your original place. I think the best way to drain this is for me to get in here, set all these to no port, and we're going to basically just drain out what's going on these guys so I can replace them. Now to get that to drain properly, I need to sink all of the stuff I've sent in, and the easiest way to do that is just sink all of this stuff that's being produced. So we go to here and we go back to Builder, Blueprint, no, not Blueprint Designer, Sink. And I saw earlier that we needed 3 sinks to sink all this stuff, so we're going to go, boom, just out here anywhere random. 1, 2, 3. We need to merge all of the copper sheets together. Okay. And these guys come in high, so we're going to put a lifter in like that. What I'm learning from this is I should probably leave my sinks in place. Okay, and this guy is going to be similar. Need to bring him out. I'll give him my line. Okay, he's on this line. There we go. You come out to here. You are going to come out to be, you're this guy. We need to bring out power. And he'd turn on power to this guy so he can drain his inputs. And we will just let this fly until it's done. And while that's going, I am going to just manually reach in here and delete the resources. That should allow those drones to drain and take off and go back to their Now, while that's happening, I really want to have a bunch more space. We could end up with many ranks of drone ports here. It's not likely to be a lot of ranks, but let's assume that we do. So I am going to, oh, come on, 5. R to get the other blueprint. There's that. So I am going to take my new blueprint, which is the other way around on the drone port. And we want to put that in place. So 10 is going to be our hotbar for building this guy. Let's see, power, belt, lifter. Let's not worry about the pipes, but I will need conveyor mergers and splitters. I believe I can bring up that one and hit E to get the other ones. What else do I need? Stackable power poles. And now blueprints. So there's a whole bunch of random blueprints here. And I am going to just not worry about it right now because it takes a while to sort all these out into place. But we do have our new blueprint there. Should I go 780? There we go. And the other blueprint of interest is the one that has the copper ingots. I will put that on 9. And we aren't going to be making more copper ingots, but we will be changing recipes on that for other things. So now I can come in here. And I won't be able to build the new, well, if I put down 2 strips of this, yeah, let's do that. I'm going to put down a deck and I'm going to trim off just the last one. So as we go forward, I'll be trimming off a second and a third, so on. Now this is clipping to the blueprint. We don't want that. What we want to do is have this all the way out on the end of this guy. Now remember, this area, this lifted area, isn't on the same grid as the ground area. It's on the grid where a drone port placed here along the 3 has its output aligned with this midpoint. You know what? If I moved it over just a little bit more, I would actually be able to use alignment on the... Yeah, let's do that. What I want to do is align my blueprints so that I can use blueprint to blueprint touching and get it on the 4s here. And that is half of a foundation to the right. We could do that just like this. Let's zoom this out. Not that way. So now we want to place our deck here. So I don't think anybody's coming back. So it's good to clear this one out. This guy still needs to be drained. This guy needs to be drained. So now if I clip a drone port on here, I believe I can use from the bottom carefully. Yes, if I set this drone port like this, then this line here comes out like that. And if I take it out directly, it lines up exactly with this seam. It'll be 4 seams over, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'll line up properly. So now I just need to set up the rest of this to be deck for deck going off to the left. So just take all this up. And all of that stuff is stuff that I placed not as a blueprint. Wholesale, tear them down, and we will need to replace all the belt work. That's fine. And I am going to replace all the way out to there. Sure I catch all of the floating bits. Okay, so that's got that clean. This one on the end, this will be our batteries coming in. So they won't actually come out here. They will go down and to the left. But that's actually a lot cleaner now because now I have batteries. I'll have a clean shot. And off to the right of the batteries, we will be just pushing things up. And I think once I get things in, I could put a border strip come on, a border strip here. But I'm going to wait to put those, I'm going to put the border strips in between the drone ports after we get everybody put down. So stripe these out along the entire set of bits that I've done. Don't need him. Okay, so for this thing, what I don't have is my vertical holes. I'll put that on 4. Conveyor lift floor pole, hit the 4, and there it is on my hotbar. There's that. We're going to put in another splitter here. Oops, 5. E gets us a splitter. H allows me to make sure that it's lined up. And this needs to be from the top to the bottom. Just like that. So now if we get batteries coming in here, it will now feed down and onto the belt, which heads off to the left. And the first step is we feed our cells. Now, I could have set these as... I could have used smart splitters here and had them always fill up the first one before sending them on, but while I like doing that for some manifolds, I'm thinking that for batteries, I'll just, have enough coming in that it works. The next step is power. So we've got power coming in here. This first switch switches things on and off for that sub thing, so we do not want to take the power this way. Dig out the power here, power here, power here. What I want to do is have all of my drone ports powered all of the time rather than powering them down. So they need to come off of this pole here, which brought me up. So let's route the power. He comes down here somewhere. So he's on the center line here and one in from center line here. That gets him vertical. And now we can bring him out here. And that brings us down somewhere along this line. I don't think I can use H on this guy. Yes, I can. How about that? That's vertical. That's vertical. That looks good. From here, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up to here. There we go. So now we have power. Now we drop a drone on here. Transport. He needs to go get batteries. And I am going to start with feeding him with a battery and filling up my incoming battery area there so we have batteries that we are going to... Whoops. Why isn't this... There we go. Yes, it did. Okay. And now we say, this port is DD2 star wants batteries. And DD1Z is my battery source. If I'm distracted, it's because I've got a Twitch streamer on my other monitor who's playing some Dwarf Fortress. Aglad's over there from time to time to see how his dwarfs are doing. I mean, I have to, because his fort name is Bouldergate, and what do you call his group? The Dungeon of Dragons? He doesn't like D&D, but tip of the hat anyway, so why not? So we now have the drone port bringing batteries, and we need to start rebuilding our drone ports that are supplying copper. Again, we are on blueprint to blueprint alignment, so I can just drop it in there. And the other one comes in here. Oh, that is so much easier to place when I do it like this. Make sure that's aligned. So we're going to come out along this line here. Boom. So these ports are going to have copper delivered to them. We already know how that works. We've set it up so I can bring in my batteries from left to right. And that's too far. So now I need to fill it in the middle with basically, okay, so let's see how this works. I may have a different way of putting the grips in on these guys. So that clips neatly to these guys. So in between here, what I really want is a 3x4. Thank you, autosave. What I want is instead of a 4x4, I want a 3x4 blueprint for a deck that I can use that's offset by half, so I can keep these strips in the middle. So let's do that. Bada bing. We want builder, special, blueprint designer, anywhere convenient. We are going to load a blueprint for the 1 by 16 by 16 concrete deck. I'm going to trim half of it, well, trim one row off. We're going to rename it 1 by 12 by 16, save. Oops, didn't trim the last one. And we clear designer, remove that, and now I should have a blueprint for that. And that leaves me with the little bit in the middle. So now, if I really wanted to, I could, well, in fact, I do want to. I'm going to go ahead and do this. So these spaces underneath the drone port, I'm going to fill in with my new foundation area. Blueprints. Which goes here. And here. And here. Now, I'm not sure, I won't do that to the blueprint because it's only on the bottom level that this makes sense. As we go upwards, I'm going to have to trim things because I want this tab to be visually sticking out rather than have a floor underneath it. We'll see how that works. I'm almost regretting not striping these across here. In fact, I am regretting it. So 5. Oh, and that's going to be a butt head, so we're going to go default. There we go. And now we go back to blueprint mode, and I can just lay my, oops. Now the other thing is that now this guy's only 3, but the blueprint goes 1 more. So I am going to lay these out again. There we go. So we've got a place to walk, sort of. This will actually, these are going to end up getting pierced by our downgoers. And I've got all this space out front. And as we build upwards, we will eat into this space as things come to the right. I may or may not keep a 4 wide out front. I don't know. It might be interesting to have this here for any merging, anything we want to do with the drone ports. For instance, if we need to have 3 drone ports stacked up receiving stuff, we could put merges out. So this is a kind of a buffer space. It gives us a good overlap. Also means that if I wanted to, I could put big heavy pillars in here to pretend that we're doing something that's not non-physical. There. So batteries are coming in and getting shipped across. And if these guys had power, they'd be showing it. Now I want to run battery lines across here. And I could do a stop. I could put in, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. So where these guys stop for this guy is right here. So I'm going to put in stops in the belt at that point. There we go. Now, I don't want wires strung across this place, so all of them are going to bring their wiring down below the deck. And that's right there. Now from here, why is this out there? I put it one in from where it needs to be. Here. Might be easier to do these from below now. So this guy needs to connect up to power. I will just string it across. So I'm doing this just in case, you know, to keep it consistent. You and I both know that I'm not going to be putting drone ports on these platforms. And this guy feeds up to this copper guy. So we now have batteries. And now we can tell the copper people to start delivering, and I need to route the copper belts. Let's get the copper coming in first. So this guy is DD2C wants copper. And we're going to need to go program our other ports. DD2C wants copper 2. Wants copper ore. So DD2C. So 1, 2, and 3 are going to go to copper 1. And all ports DD2C, again 4, 5, and 6 are going to be this port. Now at this point, the other drones are going to start coming in hot and heavy. So we need to set up our routing. So we're going to come down here and pierce through the floor. I'm going to do these in parallel so I don't have to think much about anything. And this goes down in. Okay. So now we need to bring this down to the right level and across. This is 2 levels up. It's on this borderline. So it's at this level. Zip it across. There's our first load of copper coming in. Takes some while to land. And this guy. and we're just on this level, so we'll just do that. There's my hole. And there we have it. Copper is back up and running. So the whole point of this was to be able to set up the concrete. The concrete is going to be higher, 16 meters higher, and 4 meters off to the left, which means it's going to have batteries coming in up there. So we're going to need to drop a splitter in the battery line here. I'll just go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is, from here, this side, I'm going to lift it up and toss it into a splitter on the next level so it can go to a third level and a fourth level and so on. So, our next thing is concrete, and what I want to do is just put it here. That's not the blueprint I thought it was. That's split copper ingots before whatever, and what we really want is the pure copper ingots recipe here. There we go. So this is the same layout. So any of these guys that take a solid and liquid in and have a solid output, and I need at least 3 of them, we can use this recipe, or we can use this blueprint, and all I have to do is change the recipe, and this is going to be for concrete, specifically wet concrete, and we're still at 200%. We only need 180%, so this gives us a little bit of buffer. Our input's going to be 600 water per minute. Once we get to steady state, we will be slowed down because our consumer is going to slow us down, and we'll be slightly under that, 10% under. Concrete's going to be 480, 10% under once we hit steady state. Limestone's going to be 720 per minute input, which is a full belt. I think we could do that with 1 port. Okay, so power. Again, we need a power switch. We need power. I'll just run it up now. So typically it is just about that much to the right of this guy. And we are coming in on this lane. So over here we need to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it should be right here. And I was bringing it over to this line, and then over to here, and that should power everybody up. It does. Power switch. And this is called DD2D concrete outpost. Outpost is in quote on these guys because they're really, this is tight in. We're going to be routing our outputs on belts, so it's not really an outpost, but think of it as DD2D outpost. So now we could, in fact, turn this guy off. Now, if we have several different sets of things going out here, what we'll need to do is run the unswitched power down the middle somewhere. Easy enough, we've got a space we can do that. So he's going to need to have stone above him, and water, and I will need to bring in the stone on a belt, which will then have to drop into place. Easy enough. The water is going to come from the next water thing, which is this lowest level one here. And I ran the pipeline without indicators, so we will just fix that. Oh, this pipeline doesn't have indicators. And this pipeline doesn't have indicators. Indicators for everybody. For the long pipelines, I really like seeing that little blue spot in the middle. It tells me I haven't messed up too badly yet. So these guys should now be getting water. And now this. I'm going to want to do the same layout, shifted one to the left. So the easy way is to put another 1 meter foundation out here. And go vertical for 4. And then go zoop to the right. And now the 4 guy goes here. So this concrete deck goes flush with the top on this guy. I think that's the level. Yep. And now we can take this scaffolding out. And I am going to just build this out normally, just like this. Oh, come on. Why you gotta be? Why do I have to rotate it every frippin' time? And that gives you the connection point for my next drone port, which is going to be here. Just like that. And why is this blueprint clipping in? Works better from below. So I can see that, but I'm going to clip this off. So if I just bring that up normally and run this as a guys are loud. So stepping forward by 1 foundation allows me to use just the default stuff. I don't have to do funky things with holes. Although I'm going to want a hole here, so let's put that in. The point is I don't have to use the hole to cause this to embed itself. So now we have our batteries flowing in. We don't have power yet. Thank you, autosave. So let's see. That's there. Bringing that power straight down from where it is punctures through the middle of the ramp. So I do need to bring it forward and collect it up somewhere. How about from here? Start from here. And I'm going to make these go diagonally so it's relatively the same spot. So it's 1.5 in on this guy. Yep, that matches. I like to do rectangular stuff, but as long as we are terracing these in, I will allow the diagonal. And from here, pick him up. Run him out to the 1.5 line. There we go. So now our port that will be accepting stone now has some power to it. He's in orbit because he wants to drop off some copper. This is DD2D wants stone. And the remote guys, let's do all ports. DD2D. I have 6 people sourcing stone. That makes me believe that I sized this for 2 receiving ports. So let's put the second receiving port on the next level up. Get him going. Well, do I want to try? Let's try it with 1 receiving port. Maybe it'll work. DD2D. So everybody comes to this port. So we're looking for 720 stone per minute to be delivered into a single incoming port. It'll be interesting to find out if we sustain that rate. Oh yeah, and we're still draining over here. That's okay. I'm going to continue to drain and let this guy run. We have the power. I had some power problems, but it turned out my power problems were because I had not connected up power to my sulfur source for my first generation nuclear reactor power. So, of course, when I went from, no power add-on in advance to use power normally, I had whatever I had. And when it ran out, and that's why my power went foop. So this, down here, I need to run my stone line above this guy. So he needs a above. Easy way to do that is to do a zoop of a 4 meter. And I'm going to start out here. And it needs to be 1 level higher than this. Now I think I can use a There we go. I'm going to use a through hole to get this exactly right. We're coming right down the borderline here at this level. Like that. That. I probably could have placed this by hand, but the hole, actually, I like the look of the hole. So no need to really go get rid of it. Shoot that out there. We can get rid of the lower stuff. sure I don't delete my power or my pipes. So I like the idea of stopping at these between points like this. And now we need to route our outputs from up here to pierce down through here. That's the wrong placement. Okay, so stone is coming in, and these guys should start cranking through at their 200% overclock. I do have to set the recipe on all three of them, though. And now I need to route the output to a sink. And I think that since I am thinking in terms of using this space for something else, I am going to start having a next row which will be dedicated to, at least temporarily, handling the output of this row. When I get this row of refineries done, I will maybe rethread things. So concrete, almost done here, almost done here. I've got to bring it out to the right. I could do that by having a modified blueprint that turns this, but I'm not going to do that. So we're going to bring it out here, like that, and set up a awesome sink here, like that. Feed that in and connect the power up. And now we get to watch the concrete flow for long enough to be sure that we've reached steady state. I'm going to go on mute and pause the recording, and I will unpause after we've had a nice, fair performance test. It's been a while. So we got to where the refineries have been chunking along, and I've seen a couple of brief hiatuses in the output. I think I saw one of these go down to 98% at one point. So I'm not sure whether that was because we fought over water briefly or if we actually had a situation with the concrete. But generally, every time I checked, I would see all of my drones, in orbit, ready to deliver. So I think one drone port is actually enough to source my 720 stone. And if we took that brief pause because it wasn't quite 780 for a full belt, so if it at some point dropped down to where somebody had to pause for a second before they could continue, that's all right. But there's the concrete outpost. The whole concrete outpost is that one little thing. And I was thinking as I was studying this, we've got two things that we're doing between the rows of machines. We've got inputs coming from there, which are going to sneak down between the rows to get to the row they want to be at. And we've got outputs that are going to come out and probably snake through rows to get out that direction. I'm pretty sure that if they were, instead of being dead on center, if I put them left and right, I think they clip into the refinery. But we've got enough space out here so that if I need to have a bunch of outputs stacking up to go to the left and a bunch of inputs stacking up coming in from the right, I think I can have them interleave properly at some point in the middle so that they maybe have the output here instead of coming out where it is. It would come out of vertical and stack itself on top, so you have all the inputs coming in. So if we lace all the inputs up, and then the last thing we do is lace the outputs to go over the top of them, that'd be good. And if we got inputs going to outputs that go to outputs going to inputs there, so yeah, we can deal with the outputs as we decide where they are going, and at that point they can be laced up to the top and brought across. So I think this is actually viable. At some point we are going to have our blueprint on deck areas containing things other than refineries. We're going to have assemblers and constructors, and unfortunately we're going to probably have some manufacturers and some blenders, which are I don't think I put two of those in a blueprint unless I stack them on top of each other. We'll see. We may shift away from using blueprinted things when we get to that stage. Do things like have the blenders and manufacturers pointed horizontally so that their inputs would come from the side and go through them this way, and so on. That would maintain the inputs and the outputs going along the border lines between the decks. So the next step is to chop this recording, and our next recording will be whatever DD2E is, and I haven't looked at it yet, so I'll see you then.